Okay. Any better? Tell me any better. Hoping this is any better. Can you hear me? Hoping if you guys can let me know. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is the Self-Storage Investing live stream with Powell Chi. I am your host, Powell Chi. Today, we're going to talk about the 4 ways of adding value in your self-storage property. I'm sure there's many ways, but I don't know. I think there's 4 main ways. And so we'll discuss those today, and then we'll, about halfway through, I'll just kind of break it off and we'll get into some questions, and happy to answer any questions about self-storage, about multifamily, really, anything that's on your mind. It doesn't have to be about today's topic, but it could be about anything involving, commercial real estate. So if you do have a question, post them in the chat, and then I'll be able to see them. I'll get to them towards the end. And why don't we get started? All right, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So, one thing that, let's see, just really quickly so that like who I am, everything. So Powell Chi, live in Los Angeles. I have a multifamily investing real estate background. When COVID hit, I kind of added self-storage to my asset class, put a pause on buying any multifamily, and really started focusing on self-storage. Since then, I bought my first self-storage property in January of 2021. So I've owned it for, 14 months or so. And then closed on 5 more properties in 2021. That brought me a total of 6 in 2021. Closed on number 7 in February of 2022. Number 8 is scheduled to close like in a week or so. So I don't know if it doesn't close, I still have an extension, and it will close after that. But it's around anywhere from a week to say about a month. It'll close. And then actively looking to always do more. So brings me to a total of about 1,700 units or so, 220,000 square feet is around how we measure. And they're all outside of California. So although I live in Los Angeles, nothing that I own is actually in Los Angeles. Everything is actually outside of Los Angeles. And they're spread out through many different parts of the United States: Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Connecticut. So all over. And that's a little bit of me. Obviously, I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe. If you want to hear more about self-storage investing or just about real estate investing in general, please go ahead and give me a like and subscribe. And if you're interested in partnering, you can fill out the link in the description that you see below. All right, but let's go ahead and get started about adding value. Okay, adding value. Oh, all right. Hey, we got a user in Mississippi. I gotta put this on up there, right there. Okay, perfect. Let me. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. There you go. Hey, we got a user in Mississippi. Welcome. My stuff is in the Gulfport, sort of the Gulfport area. I have 3 properties out there. So I don't know if you're around there. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into adding value. All right. Adding value. What does adding value really mean? Well, in commercial real estate, the value of your property is really based off of your net operating income. A lot of people call it NOI, right? NOI, net operating income. And so how that's derived is really you take all of your income, right? And you minus out all of your expenses, except for your debt service. Okay. So not your debt service. So income minus expenses, except for debt service, equals your NOI. Okay. So that's equals your net operating income. And then to come up with a value, an actual purchase price, what you do is you divide that NOI, you divide it by your cap rate. Okay. And your cap rate can be subjective depending on where you are in the United States, but you're looking at anywhere on the high end, which would be like, I don't know, maybe like a 7 cap, 8 cap. Hard to find all of those nowadays. But you do find a lot of ones that are in the, say, 4 or 5 cap, which means they cost more, right? When it's kind of an inverse relationship. So the lower your cap rate, the higher your purchase price is going to be. All right. So when we're talking about adding value, the simplest and quickest way to think about it is I need to bring in more income, right? Or I need to cut my expenses, or I need to do both, right? Some kind of combination. right? So what we're going to be talking about today is like the four main ways, me personally, the way that I think about it, the four ways that I look at any self-storage property and try to figure out, is this going to be a property that we can add value to? Right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about number one. All right, number one, finding low rents. Now, this might seem pretty obvious to you. You might go, of course, if you found a place and it has low rents, I mean, obviously, you just raise the rent, you increase your income. All right, that's pretty simple formula. Sounds very easy and sounds like duh, but truthfully, it's out there. It's not something that you can't find. In self-storage, there's a lot of mom and pop operators. Actually, I think in the industry right now, they mention the number somewhere around like 70% of all self-storage facilities are owned by a mom and pop operator. And a mom and pop operator is somebody that owns between, say, 1 and 5 or somewhere like that. They don't own too many self-storage facilities. So somewhere between like 1 and 5 is considered a mom and pop operator. So I'd be just out of the mom and pop operators. But you find a lot of mom and pop operators, and a lot of times they have, they've done a lot of different things, and sometimes they haven't done many things to optimize their facility. So one is they don't really run it professionally, right? So they're running it more kind of a side business, things like that. So a lot of them haven't raised rents in a number of years. And it could be, not just like 2 or 3 years. It might be like 7, 8, 10 years. They haven't raised their rents. And so that's a good sign for you. Not the best sign for running a facility, but for you as a buyer, if I'm coming into a facility and they say we haven't raised rents in 7, 8 years, I'm thinking that's great. That's what I'm looking for. And you can find it. So although there is very professionally run facilities that are on top of their rents and they're changing rents almost daily, it could be on an algorithm very similar to hotels or airplane tickets. You think it's one price one day, and then you go to check it out the next day and it's $10 more. There's algorithms that can, and software that you can do that stuff in self-storage, but there's a lot of people that don't do it. They run it on paper, and they just don't operate it that professional. So you can find that. What you find a lot of in these types of operations that are run this way is that you find that a lot of times their goal is to be 100% occupied, right? That's the sign that they feel means that they're running a good business. Is we're 100% occupied. And so they'll keep the rents low because they want to keep people there and they want to be 100% occupied, right? Now, as you start to run a little bit more professionally, you'll realize that being 100% occupied means that you're not maximizing the revenue that you can make. Should actually, in order to maximize it, you should be pushing rents enough to where that you have some vacancies, and that the new people will come in and are actually going to be paying the new rates, right? And so you're going to end up being about 92, somewhere around there, it's 92% occupied, and you're just constantly raising your rates. Now, another thing about finding low rents, and this is a little bit more on the sophisticated side, but you can find this as well, is that you can find properties that are in early lease up mode, right? So maybe it's a facility that has just been built, right? So it's just been built, and in that first year, even 2 years, well, they're not fully occupied yet, right? So they're discounting a lot. So they're trying to ramp up their occupancy and their income. So they're trying to draw people in as fast as they can. So what they're doing is they're giving heavy discounts. So if you can buy based off of those discounted rates and get a facility, then you can increase the rates to the market rent. And that could be a huge value add for you. So that's number one that I would say is finding low rents. Okay. Let's get into number two. All right. Number two. On the similar vein of these type of properties is finding low occupancy. Now, like I mentioned, you might find some properties that actually have 100% occupancy or somewhere like that, 99, 98% occupied. However, that's a value add as well. But finding low occupancy where you're taking over a facility that's anything below maybe 70, so 65% occupied, 50% occupied, 60% occupied, that's all to me, when I look at that, I think like that's great value that you can be found there just by getting this place occupied at its current rent, right? You're not even talking about like, hey, I'm going to increase the rent. I'm going to increase this. It's just a matter of like understanding the market and figuring out, can I get to, can I get to a stabilized occupancy, which in my mind, I consider that about 85% or higher, right? Some people could say, 90% or higher, but, anywhere that's 85% or higher is I consider it like stabilized. So I'm shooting to get to 85% occupancy. So anything that I look at, I use 85% as my threshold. Okay. So finding a place with low occupancy, oftentimes it means it's mismanaged in some way, right? So the occupancy is so low for some reason, they're not managing it very well, and people are just not coming to that facility, right? And it's, a lot of times storage owners, these mom and pop owners, are oftentimes their focus is somewhere else, right? So they might have a job. They might have a job, and it's because they're at the job 40 to 50 hours a week. They don't have time to handle a self-storage facility. So they just kind of let it, just wallow there, right? And if it does okay, it does okay. If it doesn't do okay, they don't care that much. Or perhaps they run another business. There's a lot of people that just, they bought these self-storage facilities and they just had this understanding that you could just buy it and then people are going to come, and then it's just like this cash cow and you don't have to do anything and you just sit around and then you just make money. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You have to put some money and some effort and some time into it. It's just free money, right? So you have to put some effort into it. But if you do, you can get some of these places. Now, I'm not saying every single place, because if it's an overbuilt market, that's not a good sign. All right. If it's an overbuilt market and your occupancy is low, 65%, it's not a good sign. Don't recommend going there. But if you look at the market, and the markets, all the competitors are 85% or higher, or some are at 90, some are at 95, and you're looking at a facility at 65% occupied, you start to think, okay, why? And if you can uncover some great reason why, maybe a bunch of the buildings are not usable, or I don't know, say everything is fine, then it's probably like, okay, if we put in some effort, we pay some money towards Google ads, we clean up the property, we do some advertising, put some good signage out there, we get our name out there, we should probably be able to get this place from 65% to 85%. Now, it might take a little while, depending on how much marketing you do and how big your population is. But, that's that's where the value add is. And you're not even talking about changing the rent price, right? You can start to change the rent price at some particular point, and you can start to increase the rents. That's even more value add for you, right? So, let me see. And obviously that's a place where you find low occupancy because it's mismanaged. Again, on the more sophisticated side is that you can find facilities that are actually still in lease up mode. So a brand new building, again, brand new, maybe they just developed it and that's what they do. They develop projects, but they don't actually run them, right? There's people that do that. They develop these self-storage facilities, but they don't know how to run them. They know how to develop them. It took them through 2 or 3 years. Now they just want to sell it. And it's probably 25% occupied or 50% occupied, something like that, right? 70% occupied, but there's all these heavy discounts. Well, again, the occupancy is low because they're still in lease up mode. They're still doing the lease up. And if you do the market study and you figure out that, hey, I should be able to, this is a very new facility. It looks good. The competition levels are okay. I should be able to lease this up. Well, if you buy it at 50% occupied, and you're able to get it to 85% occupied, I'm going to tell you, you're going to hit a huge number. I mean, your income is going to jump up significantly if you do that, right? Your income jumps up that significantly. Again, you divide it by your cap rate, you just, you hit, your value just went way up in terms of the property. Okay. So how about number 3? Okay, number 3. Expansion. Okay. And again, these are all about increasing the income, right? Again, all of this is about how do I increase my income or decrease my expenses so that I can increase my net operating income, right? And then increase the value of my property, all right, according to the cap rate. All right, so now we're looking at expansion. So what is expansion? Expansion is, just like it sounds. You have maybe you have some extra land that came with the facility. So there's a facility, it's fenced in, but you look and there's actually some extra land there that you could build or put something there that you could start generating more income. Well, that's great. I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for extra piece of land. Sometimes that extra piece of land is something you buy. So I'm going through that right now, actually, over in Mississippi on a couple of our properties there. One of them, we put a lot that was next door to our facility. We just put it under contract and we're about to buy it. So that's like another acre of land that we're about to buy. And now we can expand our facility, right? Because that facility is too full. I mean, like I told you guys, it's like at 97% or something. It's too high. So we're gonna increase the size of the facility, but also increase the rents pretty quickly here. But that's what you're looking for, right? Extra piece of land that's included. Maybe it's not included, and maybe you could find out who owns that other piece of land next door, and then you can work on the entitlement process, just like sort of we're doing. On one of our Mississippi properties, the seller actually has a number of other pieces of land, and he just asked us. He said, "Hey, pal, do you want to include this other piece of land that's adjacent to your self-storage facility? It's a half acre, and I'll just kind of throw it in there. We could talk about a price." And I was like, "Of course, let's do it. Let's make it happen." So we have an extra piece of land there, and actually, I think we're just early stages of right now of just negotiating some more pieces of land that he owns on the other side. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some other pieces of land out of this as well. But that's what you're looking for, land. Now, what were you going to do with this land? Sometimes you think, okay, well, I'm just gonna build and put another one-story metal building right there. Well, you can't always do that. So sometimes, what else can you do? Right? You're looking for, there's portable units that you can buy. So you can buy, or I don't even know if you can lease these, but I know you can buy them. You can buy these portable units and and put them in places that don't fit very well. So your facility might not just be a direct line of all this open space. Well, it might be a line this way, and then the fence goes that way. Well, you need to put it may not fit to build an actual building right along the fence line, because you might need to clearance space, things like that. So, but you can put these portable units down. You put these portable units down, they can fit in sort of odd shaped areas, and they could generate more income. So that's a way to generate more income, right? You can also look at parking. Parking is one of these things that is kind of all over the place, right? So sometimes it's just like an empty space and there's just a bunch of vehicles, boats and everything, and trailers all parked all over the place. So you can just organize this better. So instead of everybody just parking randomly wherever and using as much space as they want to, you organize it better. So you create certain lanes where these people can park here and here. And now that you organized it better, you might be able to squeeze out 5 more spots. All right. So that's going to increase your income, your potential for income there. Or perhaps it's a little bit more of repurposing that land, right? So there's parking, but it's a significant amount of parking, right? And you're like, we don't need all this parking. That's a ridiculous amount of parking. But we could use some extra land on there. And we build some extra land. I built some extra property, some extra buildings right there, right? And if the rates are good enough, maybe you want to build them climate controlled ones, right? So maybe you want to actually have an upgraded facility where it's a climate controlled facility. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just do the drive up facilities types. It depends on a number of things, your budget, what the rents are, a number of different things, and size. But repurposing your parking into self-storage is also an idea. Now, you're going to get more money out of self-storage, but it's going to cost more, right? So you kind of have to weigh this out, because your parking is very easy and the cost is very low to implement parking spaces. So you're going to have to outlay more capital, but you're going to bring in more capital, right? If you're going to put on self-storage there. So something to think about. Now, what other things about expansion can you do? So, you're kind of running through your mind when you see this facility that you want to buy, and you're thinking, what can I do here? And you might be able to repurpose the like certain buildings. So maybe it's the office, right? Or maybe it's a shop that they have. Like a lot of times they have like spaces that they keep their own stuff in there, the golf cart and tools and all kinds of different things. So you might be repurposing these to something that generates more income, right? Instead of just housing stuff. So we do this on our facilities. We repurpose the office into something that generates income. So one of the properties we have right now, it's a portfolio of 3 properties. And when we took it over, it was, we had the office in there. And overall, we had a total of 4 spaces that we repurposed or repurposing right now into rentable units, short-term rentable units, and not short-term like Airbnb, but more short-term like 6-month contracted workers for the oil refineries, things like that. And because of that, we're getting $1,400 on each of these units. So there's 4 of them. So we get $1,400 on each of these units. I think we're paying about $10,000 a month to convert them and to furnish them into a livable unit, right? So it's furnished for these sort of temporary workers who are coming to nearby the oil refineries. And it's they have internet, and they have parking spaces, obviously. And they pay us $1,400 a month, and they stay there for about 6 months. And then, people just rotate in there. Right. And when you're looking at $1,400 a month, you times that by 4. I know obviously there's some expenses in there, but, total revenue, you're talking about $5,600 of extra income that's coming in. And when the total properties altogether are bringing in like $30,000 a month, and you're bringing in an extra $5,400 just for these 4 spaces. I mean, that's a significant increase. I mean, that's more than 10%. I don't know what percent that is, but that's more than 10%. So if you can imagine any business saying, hey, if we're going to do these couple things, it costs us $10,000 each, and each of them are going to bring in $1,400. It's going to bring us more than 10% of our total revenue. It's just going to occur with this small project. I mean, every business is going to say increase 10%. That's pretty significant. So it's been great for us. So, okay. So that's about expansion. Hopefully the guys can think of like the different ways that you can expand your facility. All right. And let's talk about sort of the other side, right? We've talked about income. We've talked about generating income and what you're looking for when you're trying to look for ways to generate income. But now let's talk about the expenses side, because there's ways to cut expenses out of self-storage as well. All right. So operational, this is what I call like operational inefficiencies. So in some way you're looking to cut out some of these expenses. So I'll give you an example. On one of my facilities, we want to run it unmanned. So this is kind of our strategy. We run them unmanned, right? So there's nobody in the office. So there's an office there, but we're going to run unmanned. Well, in one of the facilities, when we're able to run them unmanned, we're also able to cut out things like the utility costs drop down significantly, right? So payroll costs are very significant. I mean, it's a big chunk. So all of a sudden you're cutting down payroll costs, you're cutting down utility costs, and your expenses are shrinking like crazy, right? And that's what you want to have happen. Now, I would say the general rule of thumb for self-storage is that you're looking at probably like a 40% expense ratio. So for those of you in multifamily, you're probably looking at a 50% expense ratio, right? So you take your total income, you take 50% of that, and then you say, okay, 50% of that has to go towards expenses. So there's a remaining 50%, that's your NOI. That's multifamily, right? Self-storage is take your total income, you take 40% of that, and that's going to go towards expenses. So 60% of that total income should be around your NOI, right? So a 40% expense ratio. Now, some of your self-storage facilities can run into the 30s. and run very well into the 30s. So it's not unusual to have them say, our expense ratio is 35% or even a little bit lower. I've even seen some of the top-notch ones running into the 20s. So into like the high 20s, I don't know, 28 or 27% expense ratio. I mean, you have to have a significant amount of income to these are some of the A-class facilities in really, really nice areas. So you have to have a lot of income to get that low of an expense ratio. But I mean, it's possible, right? And truthfully, you don't really see that in multifamily. I don't know. Maybe you guys do. I never really did. But if I saw a facility that was saying that they're going to run at 35%, I was just go, wow, that's better operators than I am, because I can't do that. But so operationally, you're looking for ways to cut out expenses, right? And so I just kind of gave you some ways that we do it, cutting out some of the payroll costs, the utility costs. Utility costs could be pretty large, right? So it's good to cut as many of those out as possible. And then, there's other things that you can do. A lot of people are putting solar panels up so you can cut more of the electricity, maybe even potentially sell it back depending on what state you're in. But yeah, putting on solar panels on top of your self-storage facilities is another thing that people do. Okay. Heading towards the end here. You know what? I figured I'm going to throw in some bonus ones for people, right? Just because, some of these are pretty obvious, but there's other ones that are not so obvious, and they're not really as common, right? So they're not as common everywhere. But if you do find them, that's a great thing, right? That you can find them. So what are some bonus ones? Well, I'll tell you. I'll start off with tenant insurance or tenant protection plans. So in self-storage, it's, I don't know, half the time you find a facility that does not have tenant insurance required for their tenants. So that means you can come in as an operator and require it for all of your tenants, and that's an additional, say it's like $9 a month. Maybe we'll just say $10 a month that they have to pay on a subscription. So every month that they're with you, they have to pay $10 a month. You as an owner, as the ownership side, you actually get a commission of that, right? So it could be any, the numbers could be significantly, all over the place. It could be 40% on the low side, it could be 70% on the high side. So it's going to be somewhere in there, just, whatever. Say it's 40%. You're going to get $4 for every $10 that comes in. That's actually a nice little bonus, because you got to think some of these facilities have, like some of my smaller ones have 150 units, right? That's 150 units, right? And my bigger ones have like 480 units, right? So you got 480 units, like 480 different people all having to get on, renter's insurance, and then you're getting $4 or $5 every single month extra for renter's insurance, and they get the protection of renter's insurance for all these cases of disaster or flood or water damage, or pest damage, and things like that. So they get so that peace of mind, it's kind of a win-win, right? And that's one thing to look for. There's other things like that are in the similar vein, like security or monitoring, some type of monitoring system, and those are out there as well, where you can have your tenants, you can make it mandatory, or you could just say, hey, this is an option, and then you actually get a commission off of this monitoring system that you sign your tenants up for. And that's again a subscription base, so you're going to be getting that every month. And again, it can vary depending on what type of contract you have and how many, how type of volume you're buying. All right. How about some other things? So if you have an office and you're selling things, oftentimes people are selling a lot of retail items. So you're selling things like tape, tape guns, boxes, bubble wrap, locks, all these retail items that can be sold. Water. Whatever you want, it's inside the office. You can sell many of these things. That's another way to add value to your bottom line. How about billboards, right? So you got billboards, and a lot of people are able to put a billboard or a big sign out there, and they sell the advertising space, right? So it's going to be, your name underneath, or it's an electronic one, and you can sell the billboard space. So that could be a significant boost to your income, your monthly income. Similar to cell towers, right? There's a lot of cell towers. So if you have space, you can put cell tower. Now, it's not that you would, it's not that every facility is going to have a cell tower on it. It's kind of a specialty, and you have to work with, those cell tower companies. But I mean, it can be significant in terms of the amount of income that they can bring you. And it's also they're generally like long-term leases, like 20 years or things like that. All right. U-Haul, Penske, these other moving companies, they will actually pay you commissions as well to handle their service, right? So they drop, sign up or drop off vehicles. You can get some type of commission from U-Haul and Penske and probably other trucking services as well. So that's another way to add value, increase your income. I don't know. One of the, I would say the most unique one that we've come across is that we have a restaurant on top of our self-storage facility. And you're like, what? What is that? Are you kidding me? Yeah, no. We have 5th floor. So we have 4 stories, 4-story climate controlled self-storage facility. 5th floor is a awesome, basically restaurant, and has like a 360-degree view of the island. It's on island. And there's like live music up there. It's a full bar. It's modern. It's actually really cool. I mean, it's got, it's meant for like weddings and things like that. So there's like the bridal room has like its own shower for the bride to get ready. And I don't know, it's super nice. Like, so it's really cool. But those are just other creative ways that, you're not going to come across these on every single self-storage facility, but these are some bonus ways of adding value to your property. Okay. So that is it for the 4 different ways, plus some bonus ways of adding value to your self-storage. Again, just to recap them, they are finding low rents. Finding low rents is one of them. Finding low occupancy is number 2. Expansion possibilities, number 3, and then operational inefficiencies was number 4, and then a bunch of different bonus ones was that. So that all said, that's going to kind of end this portion. If you have any questions, now is a great time to put your questions inside of the chat, and then I'll get to them really quickly. That will be great. And while you're doing that, again, if you're here, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. If you're or give me a like, hit those like buttons. If you're interested in partnering, just see the description, and you can go to the link in the description if you're interested in partnering as well. I mentioned this as well. I do have a mentoring program for those that are interested in just really straight mentoring, that they want to get into a deal like right now, not I want to learn about this and I want to get educated and network and things like that. It's like, no, if you want to get into a deal right now, which actually is my deal, so you'd be coming into my deals. And if you're interested in that, then let me know. It's a mentoring program, and you can sign up in the same partnership form right there. All right. And then we do also have, we're creating an investing fund. So for those of you who are interested in investing in multiple different types of real estate, sort of a diverse area of whether that's multifamily or self-storage or short-term, long-term rentals, debt, equity. We have a number of different options for you. It is for accredited investors only, right? So you do have to be an accredited investor. But the minimum is $25,000 to invest into our fund, and you can split up your money according to how you want to. Okay, so go ahead and put your comments, questions, topics that you'd love to talk about in the chat. I got a few here that I will go over first, and then we will get into those. Okay, so Q&A here. I got a question from Jing. Jing, hey, how's it? Great to see you. So how to find accurate numbers of revenue and not relying on what was provided. Okay, so how do you find accurate numbers and not rely on what's provided? Okay, so first of all, you're not really going to get super accurate numbers until you're probably under contract. Okay, and I'll tell you why. So initially, you are going to have to just go by what the broker says in terms of what you're seeing as far as income and expenses, right? So they're probably going to post things to you, or it's going to be on the offering memorandum, or maybe they're going to send you some financials. So they'll send you the T12, they'll send you the rent roll, and generally that's what you're going to get before you go under contract. Now you just have to take that all as like, hey, this is legitimate. All right, these are real. Okay. Now they may or may not be, but when you get under contract, right, now you're going to probably ask for a lot more documentations that support this. And probably the primary ones are going to be tax returns, right? So you're going to look at tax returns, and you're going to get the tax returns from the seller. You're going to probably ask for 3 years of tax returns, and you're going to ask for at least 12 months of bank statements. Okay. So you're going to want bank statements, and then you're going to verify. You're going to go back and you're going to look at every single transaction in the bank statement. Okay, what does it match up with? And based off of this, how much is income? How much is expenses? And you're going to have to sort of do all that bookkeeping on the last 12 months and figure out, okay, does this match up to what they said in their T12? And does this match up to those financials? What is showing in the bank? Now, if it's if you're looking at a property and you're buying this property for $10 million and it doesn't match up with $2,000 or $3,000 difference, well, I don't know. Are you going to go back and cancel the contract because they said that they were getting $1 million in income, and when you did it, it's actually $998,000 in income? I don't know. Me personally, no, but that's all your choice to figure out what you want to do at that particular point. You have a certain threshold where you might say, hey, I might not do 2,000, but if it's $40,000 difference, and they said they had $1 million in income, and when I did everything, and I did all my calculations and my auditing, I'm coming out with 960,000. Well, now that's a question mark, and I need to know why, and where are we missing this extra $60,000 or whatever I said. So that's what you want to do. Okay, so initially you just have to take what the broker says as, hey, this is real, and these are the real documents, because that's what they're going off of. They're not going to do a financial audit of this. They're just getting this from the seller, and then the seller is representing these numbers, right? And then you verify it through your own auditing. Okay, so good question though, Jing. Appreciate that. So how about let's see. Hey, we got a question from my guy here, Kago. All right. Let's see. What do you look for when walking a property doing due diligence? Okay, so hey, when you're walking a property doing due diligence, okay, so what Kago's talking about is like early on when you put a deal under contract, right? Put it under contract fairly quickly. For us, it's usually within 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. You're going to fly out to that property, or in my case, you're going to fly out because I'm not investing in Los Angeles. So I'm going to fly out to the property, and my team is going to go on site, and then we are going to do our due diligence, on-site due diligence. Now, what does due diligence consist of, right? So we're going to bring not only our team, so there's going to be also some vendors and some other people there that are industry experts that are going to help us out. So we're going to have inspectors there, right? We're going to try to have some contractors there as well. So maybe, you're looking for somebody on the roof, electrical contractor, plumbers, anything like that, that can be out there to help you assess the property, right? And then we also bring our property manager out there as well to take a look at, what do they see with the property, and so they can have eyes on the property and get to know the property before we close. But you're looking for all different types of things. You're really just looking for, I guess, on the basic side is everything that was represented in all the documents that you got on paper, and what you looked on through Google and Google Maps. Now that you're in there in person, what do you see, right? So are the pictures all doctored up? Is the condition of the property what you thought it was going to be? Is there things that were hidden that they didn't show? Maybe they said their occupancy was, like our last one said it was 98%, right? So when we go there, are we seeing a lot of doors without locks on them? Doors without locks mean nobody's renting them, right? So if we only see a couple, then we say, oh, place is probably 98%, occupied. That's probably right. I would say one of the things that we do on all of our properties is we go there at night. So we'll go there at nighttime and see what the place looks like at night. And we've had some fun encounters. I mean, from our very first one, we got the police called on us because we were breaking into the facility, and I don't know. That's all fun times, right? Great stories. Great stories to have. But yeah, we go there at night, we look at the property, we check out the lighting, we check out the security. How does it feel, right? Does it feel like somebody would feel safe here coming at night? Or does it feel like, man, this place is crazy at night. I would not want to come here at night. Well, you want to know those kind of things. You're not going to know that when you come there in the daytime. You're not going to know what lights turn on and what lights are working and what lights are not working. And if it's bright enough, right, they might be working, but are they bright enough? And what might have some areas that you might have vagrants there or something, right? So you want to know those things, so you go there at night. Another thing we do is we do a market study. So we're looking at the market as well. So we're going to go out and visit all the neighboring self-storage facilities and see what our competition level is like, right? Are they sophisticated? Are they mom and pop? Are they doing things on paper? Are they doing everything's automatic or unmanned, or there's a person in the office? How clean are they? Are they climate controlled or not? So we look at all those different things. So hopefully that gives you an indication of what you're looking through, what you're looking for. It's always great to bring around those experts because they're looking for different things, right? You're looking for, how does the water drain? It's great. When we went there one time, it was raining. Well, actually, multiple times we went to our facilities, different areas, and it was raining. It was great because you need to see, does the rain pool, and where does it pool? And then does it pool so much that it goes into underneath the doors and into the, into the units? That's going to be a big problem because that's, your drainage is messed up there, right? So you want to know those things. Or is it draining pretty effectively? You don't really need to worry about that. And it's one thing off your mind that you can check off. So hopefully that answers your question there, Kago. Appreciate that. We got another question here from Ari. And again, if you have more questions, type them in the chat and we'll get to them. We have a question here from Ari. How to JV into a self-storage or multifamily deal? How do you JV into one? Okay, well, I'll just answer for me. It's like, it matters what is the purchase price of the property, right? For me, there's a certain threshold where I can do a joint venture for any property that is a certain price point or lower. A joint venture, hopefully you guys know, but a joint venture is probably just a smaller group, smaller partnership. Everybody's active. Everybody is engaged in the property. Everybody has some type of role within the partnership, right? If you're doing a syndication, something else. Well, syndication has a general partnership, which is a group of people that are the active investors doing everything. They're doing all the things, making all the decisions and doing everything that has to go on with the property. And then there's, on the other side, is the limited partners who are passive investors, and they're investing money, but they're not involved in the decision-making. Okay, so there's a joint venture or a syndication. So for me, a joint venture is a smaller property. So for me, it's 3 million and under. So if I'm purchasing a property 3 million and under, I didn't put LOI, I just put maybe interest on a property that's 3 million or under to a broker today. That one I'll probably JV, do a joint venture, right? There's a small group of us. And then there's another, if there's something else that's larger, well, then I'm looking at potentially doing a syndication. So if it's $7 million, well, you have to raise more money, right? So you're going to bring in money from a lot of investors. Then you're looking to doing maybe like a syndication. So hopefully that gives you Ari, hopefully that gives you an indication of how to do it. I hope that answered your question. Okay. All right. Was there another question here? Differences between financing multifamily and self-storage. Okay, this is a good question. This is something I might actually turn this into a full topic because this is a long one. So there are many differences, but let me just start with when you're with $1 million mark. When you're under $1 million in multifamily and self-storage, you're probably going to go to a bank or a credit union or something like that to fund your property, right? When you get over $1 million in multifamily, you're probably going to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, which they call agency debt, right? That's right now considered some of the greatest debt that you can get, the Cadillac of debt products that you can get. And so that's I can't get into everything about what agency debt is, but it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. There is no Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in self-storage. It's only residential. So you're not getting a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So you might be going for a CMBS loan in self-storage. There's also CMBS in multifamily as well. But in general, in self-storage, you might be looking at CMBS if you're over $1 million, or you might be looking at life insurance companies. There are life insurance companies who will invest in self-storage. Generally, I haven't seen any that invest in multifamily, but they'll invest in self-storage and they will give you similar terms, similar debt to, say, CMBS, which in general, what I see is it's a little less favorable than agency debt. Okay, so you'll pay a little bit higher interest rate. You'll pay a little bit higher interest rate, and that's generally what I see. You're paying a little bit higher on the interest rate. The other parts of the terms can all be very, very similar. 30-year amortization, a bunch of years of interest only, 5-year, 10-year term, prepayment penalties all over the place. In general, those are a little bit the same. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of what are the differences between multifamily, self-storage, lending. But again, we could do a whole different topic on this one because this is a big one. Okay, let's get into, hey, I got another one here from Bernardo. Bernardo, how's it going, buddy? Great to see you. Let's see. What are some unforeseen issues you have seen in self-storage? Unforeseen issues. Well, sometimes you have people living inside of the unit, right? Well, you can't have that, so that's immediate cause for, termination of contract. You kick the people out. You can't have that. Even if you have to forcibly remove, it's not a living facility, right? So you can't have that. But that does happen. Right? It does happen. All right. It probably doesn't happen. I don't know. Ours, we don't have electricity running there. So there's no electricity. So somebody have to have to have flashlights or lanterns or something inside. So we shut off all the water. So there's no water available. So we're not the most attractive. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It still happens, and we still have to keep an eye on that. Right. Let me see. Any unforeseen issues? Trying to think of, let's see, what other unforeseen issues? Nothing's coming to mind as in anything that's super crazy. I'll keep this in mind as I go through and talk to the other questions. And if anything comes up, I'll come back to this question. Okay, Bernardo, I appreciate you asking. Thank you. All right. Looks like, hey, Kago, we got another question here. Okay, let me see. I'll push this one up here. What do we got? What about contracts, partnerships with U-Haul or moving companies? Yep. So that is exactly one I put there in my bonuses. So you can have a contract or a partnership with these moving companies like U-Haul or Penske, and you can put their trucks there at your facility, and you can either do the contracts or you can have them drop off. But either way, that you can potentially make some commission off of people that are moving. And also, the moving trucks like the U-Haul and the Penske just being outside of your facility also attracts attention. So it's another good way for you to attract attention to your facility as well. So that's an added bonus there. Okay. Let's see, Tracy and Amy. Okay, Tracy and Amy Thompson. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Let's see. How would you learn about the facilities? How would we learn about the facilities that you decide to pass on? Could we compensate you with a finder's fee? Sure. Let's talk. Again, it will depend on what you're looking for, right? So there's a lot of different things that I'm not looking for. I mean, I'll just tell you in general, I don't look for things that are really under 3 million. I mean, maybe if it's close to 3 million, but in general, if it's under $3 million, I'm probably not looking for it. And so, like when I have a friend of mine, he just sent me a deal 2 days ago, and it was like 5,000 square feet. Generally, I'm probably at a minimum of 35,000 square feet. So 5,000 square feet facility, and it was like $500,000. It could be in a great city like Dallas, and I would just still pass on that. And I would just be like, sorry, or that's just not me. I'm just not really looking for that. So yeah, I mean, Tracy and Amy, feel free to reach out to me, and we can talk about what your criteria is, and what we would be looking for, and if there's things that we just don't, we just pass on, and but it could be a good deal. We just, we've seen some good deals, and we actually do partner with people as well. I mean, some other people have partnered with us, and it's not a deal that we would take down. And it just kind of matters like how much involvement do you want? Because if it's a deal that we're not going to take down because it's too small, we're happy to give some, we're happy to mentor, but we're probably not going to be as heavily involved in it because we're trying to take down some of these larger properties, and it's going to take a time way to focus on the smaller properties. So we'll help you, guide you, but we probably won't be, doing the day-to-day on these type of facilities. But let us know. We can talk, happy to discuss. All right. Facebook user, we got a Facebook user here. What size deals do you consider chasing? So like I mentioned, 3 million and higher is us. I would say our sweet spot is that $5 to $15 million is what we're looking for. $5 to $15 million is probably our sweet spot. We'll go higher than that. And we are actually considering going a good amount higher than that, depending on how we structure it and things. But we're looking at some portfolios that are on the larger side, right? They could be maybe 30 million, maybe 50 million, right? So we'd have to structure it a little differently and how we would take this out, but it'd be a portfolio, right? So it might be 10 facilities, it might be 5, I don't know, eight properties, right? And then you got to go do due diligence on all of them. So we are considering that as well. But in general, if something's under $3 million, in general, we're just probably passing. If it's under 30,000 square feet, we're probably passing. If it gross potential income is like potential income, doesn't have to be making it right now, but it's gross potential income. Like what could it make if it was running at 92% and it was at market rate? What could it make? And if it's making, and if that number is less than say 350,000, probably passing. Probably going to pass on those. Okay. So hopefully that gives you some indication, but I'm happy to talk, happy to discuss. Okay. Bernadette, let's see, follow-up question here. What is the eviction process for non-paying tenants? How is it different than multifamily? That's a great one. I almost feel like doing this one next week. I was literally, as I was presenting this and talking about why self-storage, like why self-storage in general? Like, I know, why would you get into it? Well, I'll tell you, the answer to that is one of these big things is this answer, the eviction process. And is it different than multifamily? What's when people don't pay, what's the difference between self-storage and multifamily? So Bernardo, hold off on this question. I have a good feeling that it's going to be within this next month. This is going to be one of the topics, at least if not the topic, I'll go over it in lengthy detail. Okay. Thank you for answering. Asking. Okay. Tracy and Amy got another question to follow up here. Do mastermind members have access to the deals that you pass? So what you're asking about is Multifamily Masters. Do the Multifamily Masters members have access to the deals that I pass up on? I would say in general, no. It's not something that I've funneled to them. I have, I guess it's not really something that I've even thought about doing. So in general, right now, no. It's also though, truthfully, that in the last, I guess about month now, we've evaluated, I think our numbers are probably at 70. So we probably went through about 70 deals, right? And we've put out what I saw initial communications with probably about 40 of those deals, to the brokers, asking them if we're anywhere near the ballpark. And I would say that we are close on maybe 3. So it's maybe 3 that we're pretty close on. I don't know, just numbers wise. So I don't know if you're going to want all of these ones, but again, it depends on what you're looking for. Again, so Tracy and Amy, just we could talk about what you're looking for. All right. Question here again. The follow-up question for Tracy and Amy. Fantastic. Okay. Ohio, 15,000 square feet, under $2 million. Okay. So that probably is a deal that I would not look at myself. So my team will probably not be interested in that. But if it's a partnership thing, or if it's, if it's a deal that we found this kind of thing, we would and we thought it was a good deal, we'd still probably offload it to something else. It's just not something that we would, in general, when we say those numbers, we're just not even going to take that much time to really evaluate that particular deal. Okay. But, if it was an opportunity to partner, perhaps we would. Okay, and let's see, another question. All right, you'll follow up. So sounds good. Follow up for sure. Anybody else you're interested following up to as well? Don't be shy. Just reach out to me. You have my, I don't know, one of the easiest ways is if you can't get a hold of me is Facebook Messenger. So just add me as a friend. As long as I think you have a legitimate profile and it's not a fake profile or something like that, I usually add everybody. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram as well. Happy to reach out to people. So, in closing, I really appreciate you guys all joining me and asking the questions and participating. I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up or a like if you haven't done that already. If you want to hear more about self-storage, multifamily, commercial real estate investing, I'd love to do it. I'd love to continue doing this if this is something that you're getting value from. And again, reach out to me on social media. Hopefully going to be trying to do this once a week on this Wednesdays. I'm traveling a lot this upcoming month, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it every single week, but I'm certainly trying to. And again, if you do want to partner with me on any particular deal or a mentorship program, anything like that, there's a link in the description. Feel free to fill out that link and you will get notified of my particular deals when I have them. And then we can always discuss them. Okay. That's about it. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. And I will talk to you later.